Hello everybody. Next up we head off down the M3 to Southampton. Kick-off on Sunday is at 2 p.m, and if you're going by train, leave now. There's replacement buses between Eastleigh and the city centre all day. Check before you leave, etc. So Southampton then. There are rumblings of disquiet in darkest Hampshire at the moment, with the club having lost their last 4 in a row. Now, whilst nobody was expecting to get much out of City away, and a 4-0 defeat in a match where Haaland took a day off and only got the one was probably the best they could have hoped for, defeats to Wolves and Villa away, both 1-0, and a 2-1 home reverse to Everton, where all 3 goals came in 5 minutes, will have seen the powers that be at St Mary's looking very closely at the redundancy terms of David Hasselhoff's contract. Their wins so far have come at Leicester away and Chelsea at home, both 2-1. They also managed to rescue a point at home to Leeds, where they were 2-0 down going into the final stages, all of which has left them on 7 points, which is 1 above Wolves, who currently occupy the uppermost of the relegation spots at present. You can see why they might be worried. It's not as if Knight Rider wasn't busy in the window. Daisy's research suggesting that Manchester City's summer car boot sale was the preferred shopping destination for them this summer. £12 million was the fee paid to the citizens for Republic of Ireland international Gavin Bazunu. He spent last season on loan at Portsmouth, but they signed him anyway, presumably on the grounds that they only had a short hop along the M27 to go and see if he was actually any good. He's been first choice between the sticks this season. They also signed another custodian in the form of Mateusz Lee, who was available as a free agent, having run down his contract with Turkish outfit Altay. The plan had been to offload Alex McCarthy, but with nobody buying, and former Man City keeper Wally Caballero still there, this left them with a surfeit of stoppers on the books, and Lee barely had time to unpack before being sent across the channel to Troyes on loan. In defence, they paid €10 million, which was about £8.6 million at the time, to Bochum for defender Armel Bella-Kotchap. He's got a bit of a cosmopolitan background. He's the son of a Cameroonian who was born in Paris but raised in Germany, for whom he came through the under-18 system, internationally speaking. His full debut for the Germans came in the recent nut job of a friendly draw with England, a match in which he came on as a late sub. Now here's a question for you. What were you doing in 2004? Me, I'll be honest, I can't remember. And neither can Romeo Lavia, mainly because he was in the process of being born at the time. The 18-year-old Belgian who came through the Anderlecht kindergarten before being snapped up by Man City at the age of 16, became the first person born in 2004 to score in the Premier League, when he scored against Chelsea the other week. He signed for £14 million in an unusual deal that allows Man City to buy the player back for a reported £40 million, should they receive firm offers from elsewhere for the player. Chelsea were rumoured to have put in a bid for a similar amount before the player went south, so this deal may be one to watch. The midfielder is a big doubt this weekend, though, having done in a hamstring last month. They managed to get past the M62 junction from Manchester and carried on further north, ending up in Glasgow, returning down the M74 with Nigerian international Joe Aribo. They paid £6 million for the Londoner, who made his professional name with Charlton. Qualifying through parentage, he was part of the Nigerian squad that made the last 16 of the African Cup of Soup last year. A further addition to the striker ranks was Frenchman Sekou Mara. They paid Bordeaux about €13 million for the striker, who, in his one full season in the first team, averaged a goal every 5 games or so in the league. Now, I know stats don't always prove much, but one can only presume the Southampton scouting system identified a bit of hitherto undiscovered potential there. Another £10 million went on Croatian central defender Đurđa Kaletakar, who arrived from Marseille. He's back in the Croatian international fold following a suspension a while back for electing to pull out of a Croatian under-21 squad, citing tiredness just before disappearing in the general direction of the Maldives with a mate. He was on course to sign for Liverpool last season, but the deal fell through and the French side stood up to the Scousers and refused to sanction the deal on the grounds that they didn't have time to source a replacement. That's probably cost them about £11 million, with Southampton shelling out less than half the price the Scousers had put aside for the deal. It was just time to pop up to Manchester to pick up a couple of more youngsters in the form of winger Samuel Edozie, 19, and left-back Juan Lario, 18. Southampton paid £10 million and £5 million respectively for the pair, with both deals containing those buyback and sell-on clauses they seem to be so fond of up there. Daisy has gone for a lie down, so we'll move on to the wild and wacky world of association football, where the football gods have arisen from their slumber and delivered a huge slice of karma to a certain Kevin McCabe. McCabe was, you may recall, the chairman of Sheffield United at the time of the so-called Tevez affair, who, despite having broken the rule themselves, banged on about fairness in football for months, before finally getting some compensation following a ruling from a senile arbitration judge who was persuaded by dodgy journalists that Tevez was solely responsible for Sheffield United's failure to win any games when it mattered, despite one of said journalists awarding Rob Green a string of Man of the Match awards. It was long suspected that McCabe's primary aim in the whole matter had less to do with fairness in football and more to do with an attempt to recoup some of the good money after bad that he'd thrown at his basket case of a club. If that was the case, let's hope he saved some of those ill-gotten gains following a ruling in the first-tier tax tribunal last week, which decided that, far from being resident in Belgium during the period in question as he had hoped he had been, he had in fact been UK resident the whole time, exposing him to an unspecified but hopefully massive UK tax liability. I suggest £25 million would be a suitably nice figure, Mr. Taxman. Let's move on to us, shall we? Well, Fulham was hilarious, wasn't it? I mean, if you're going to keep fouling a player when the ball's out of play, and the referee tells you that he'll penalise you when the ball is in play, you can hardly be surprised when the ref does exactly that. We deserved the win, mainly because, well, apart from the goal, and the one that hit the bar, Fulham created next to nothing. And any team that starts time wasting on the 17th minute like they did deserves absolutely nothing from the game. They'll moan about the ref, but frankly that's just a bit of a diversionary tactic really, covering for the damned awfulness of their game without Mitrovic. As for Anderlecht, 2-1 flattered them in extremis, and sent their loathsome support back to Belgium with again precisely what they deserved. You have to ask though, what is it with security at the Olympic? Do they actually not recognise pyrotechnics? I mean, I had the little charging case that contains my earphones opened up and examined on Thursday night on the way in, for Pete's sake. Lord alone knows what they were expecting to find, but the fact that so many flares got into the away end suggests that some sort of major rethink on training is required. Meanwhile, it's to be hoped that Silkeborg can do the business against them at home in the last round of games. I think it's probably a bit much to expect FCSB to do anyone a favour. The main downside on Thursday night on the pitch was the loss of both Ogbonna and Dawson to injury. Of the two, Ogbonna's hamstring sounds the more serious, with Dawson's dead leg, which sounds like the title for a B-movie western, withdrawal being slightly more precautionary. So, the prediction then. Well, the atmosphere down there is one of despondency. Indeed, many are in that awkward position of almost preferring a defeat, if such a result proves to be the catalyst for change. Well, I think with their confidence enjoying a boost at present, we'll be in a position to facilitate their wishes. So the £2.50 I was going to send to McCabe to help him with his tax bill, yeah right, will instead be going on an away win. If you can make that 3-1 to us, please, Mr. Winston. Enjoy the game.
So we're here in the offices of a Late Late Show with the host of a Late Late Show, James Corden.
Hi.
Big West Ham fan.
Yes. And big knees up Mother Brown, man.
Yep.
Get on the forum at kumb.com. Come on, you irons.